let's get back to the Lionesses. They battered Jamaica 7-0 on Sunday. I was there. King Power. Do you know, I was in the fan zone beforehand. Couple of cheeky little beers. The fan zone was absolutely packed. Beautiful atmosphere. Saw Basil on the little roundabout just beside the burger van outside King Power giving it beans. There was a long queue of people who wanted to get their photographs and autographs with Basil, which was lovely to see. They had a little DJ on. Yeah, honestly, like he has become like a mainstream like women's football fan celebrity, and so he bloody well should. But yeah, it was really lovely to see sort of like how many people kissed it out. And I think they managed to get, I think it was like 28,000, 25,000 in the stadium. I can't remember the exact number, but the stadium felt very much sort of like 80-90% at capacity. It was beautiful day, and it was the start that everyone kind of wanted. You know, the Lionesses on the front foot. I mean, I know sort of in the lead up to the game, everyone was kind of thinking, you know, this is Serena's kind of final determination of who's going to be in that starting 11. Massive talk about Lauren James being able to make her return off the bench. But Ella Toone, who, I'm sorry, this is my hand stuck up in the air. I called it last pod when we were talking about starting 11, and I had so many people drop into the DMs and say, are you well, Chloe? Those choices around Neve Charles and Ella Toone, are you feeling all right?
Listen, we get that all the time. Doesn't matter who you pick. I mean, I said Jess Carter and everyone told me, well, that was a terrible idea.
What? Why?
Thank you.
I mean, Rach, first half, it was a completely dominant performance, I felt, from the Lionesses. They came in confident, they came in strong. It didn't feel like they allowed Jamaica any time on the ball. Jamaica, I mean, I'd love to see the possession stats, but the first kind of 30, 40 minutes or
19%.
so, Jamaica barely had any 19% was it? I mean, didn't really see Jamaica being able to pick up the ball at all. And I think, you know, there was maybe that unfortunate situation. I think it was about 20, 25 minutes in where Jamaica did score a goal. And I think that was a little bit nervy, but at the same time, there was no panic. There was no, oh, okay, well, they've got one back and therefore we should all think this is, you know, going sideways. And, you know, actually the confidence that we had at the first like bit of the game is misplaced. It very much felt self-assured, confident, calm, and exactly the kind of performance that we wanted to see a few days before the Euro starts.
Do you know what that goal did though? It helpfully highlighted a problem that England have had before and need to be aware of, and that is when they feel confident and that they're dominating the game, that they can switch off. And that is an example of how you cannot do that. Even if you end up winning a game 7-0, you are fully capable of conceding a goal if you switch off. And I think England have done that in the past at times. Now, the difference is, I think, is that they're not going to face, I don't think, a situation like that in the group stages. I don't think they're going to dominate any of the teams in the way that they did Jamaica. So I would like to think that switching off won't happen. But I do think, you know, it's an area that England have needed to work on and continue to still need to work on, is defending set pieces. And that was an awkward one. To be fair, it wasn't awkward. It was low, it was flat, it went through someone's legs, and then the shot went through about 3 people before it got to Hampton. And, you know, it was awkward. But it is just an area that England need to tighten up on and switch on a little bit in terms of areas of concern. Otherwise, though, fully agree. Free-flowing, confident, really nice creative passes, lovely link-up plays between different players. You know, Lauren Hemp is just wonderful. She is just so fun to watch when she's in full flow and confident. It's incredible how quickly she's come back. There doesn't seem to be kind of any hesitance or rustiness. She's just, I'm back on the pitch, I'm back to 100%. You know, there was, I think it was for the Lucy Bronze goal, where the ball was going out and she slid along the ground to keep the ball in and just got up and carried on. And it just exemplified Hemp and her ability on the ball, her commitment to running down every ball, keeping every ball in. So yeah, I was really impressed with pretty much everybody on the pitch. I thought had a good game. I thought Alessia Russo was going to have one of those games where she hit everywhere but the bloody goal.
100%.
She nearly broke the crossbar at one point. Like I really felt for her by half time. I was like, she should be, you know, have 3 goals by now. And sometimes with her, maybe if she'd scored a little bit earlier, I feel like she would have gotten more. But she definitely deserved to get her goal as well. I thought Beth Mead played really well. You know, I really like how she gets back and defends when necessary. And she deserved her goal as well. There was that moment where she went down and we all held our collective breath, especially when it was holding her knee and everyone was just like, huh. So yeah, I think for me, in any friendly, I remember it was the same during the World Cup, watching some pre-tournament friendlies. I can't remember who it was that played each other. It might have been Spain and France or someone like that. And was it Salma Basha or someone that went down clutching her knee? And we were all like, oh my God, no, like not now. We're like 4 or 5 days out from the tournament. Like, don't. And we all thought she'd done her knee. She came back. She was fine. Oh, but it doesn't really matter, even if it's England, whoever it is. You just don't want people picking up those injuries in the pre-tournament friendlies. It's the absolute worst time. So yeah, there was a couple of moments anytime a player went down for more than 2 seconds that it was like, but thankfully they all came out unscathed.
No, definitely. And I think, I mean, it was definitely one that I think the crowd really like grew into. I think, I mean, there was this like gorgeous moment where they had the sort of fireworks going. There was the sort of fanfare at the start of the game, all the players walking out. There was like, and then there was like sea of like a white and red checkered flag like behind the players. And like everyone had like a flag on their seat. Like there was a massive atmosphere around it. And I think what was really nice, I think, to see England was that it was like very cool and composed at performance. I mean, obviously, when you look at the scoreline, you're thinking 7-0. God, that was an absolute battering, and it was very much one-way traffic. But there was no rushing to get the next goal. It was very much build-up play, right passes, linking up with players, kind of creating that movement. And like when you look at the cadence of the goals, you've got the first one in the 10th minute, then you've got 32nd minute.
The goals. That is
the cadence.
Beautiful. Wow.
Isn't it? So you've got 10, 32, 50, 45 plus 4, 59, 71, 85, and then 90 plus 6. Each one of those goals has made at least, there's about like, about 7, 8, 6 minutes in between each one of those goals happening. And that's how it felt. It was just like you knew that the next one was coming, but there was a patience and a kind of build up to the next goal taking place. And I think, yeah, bar that Jamaica goal that was ruled offside, it just felt like it was exactly the kind of performance that everyone needed to kind of have that reassurance. And I know Jamaica are not the level of competition that England are going to be facing in the Euros, but it definitely would have been, you know what the headlines would have been had that been a close call, or had it been a Jamaica loss, it would have been absolutely catastrophic. And so they did what they needed to do in that game.
So I've seen interesting comments on social media about this game, and to be fair, I think if they'd played a top 10 team, people would be saying the opposite, because there always just seems to be this desire to be like, well, here's something negative to say. And it was, one was, can't believe Serena didn't give more minutes to more players and do more rotation. And before a major tournament, your final game before your major tournament, you're playing your starting 11. That is the whole objective of that game, is the confidence, is the minutes, particularly with key players not having loads of minutes in their legs. They needed to be getting those minutes. Secondly, you can argue it one of two ways. Yes, you could play a team that's going to cause you much more of a challenge, but that can help you. That can help you work things out. Or equally, if you play a team that isn't going to pose the same challenge, it allows you to build confidence, bang goals in. You know, both types of games can provide key momentum before a major tournament. Secondly, it's very difficult at this stage, particularly with, you know, you can't be facing a team you're going to face, etc. It can be quite difficult to find a team that is in and around it. And to be fair, England have played. They've played Spain recently. They have, in the last kind of year or so, they have played Germany. They've played, the Netherlands a little while ago. So it can be tricky to then try and find those big teams at that exact moment. So I think both types of games, whether one is more challenging or one is a bit easier, they both provide you with benefits going into a major tournament.
No, I mean, it's weird to see that there was so much criticism around the sort of use of squad rotation. Like, this wasn't a game. This wasn't a training pitch game. This wasn't a kind of a game that meant absolutely nothing, and Serena was just there to, give people caps. Like, this isn't the time or the place for that. And I think even on the rotation point itself, I mean, she used up 6 subs. You saw, Lauren James coming on. You saw Grace Clinton. You saw Esme Morgan, Chloe Kelly, Aggie Beaver-Jones, Niamh Charles come on. Like, she still wanted those players to get minutes, because obviously it's important that they do to prepare themselves for whatever might happen, every eventuality that might happen in the tournament. But she used those subs in a way that felt logical and that made sense with what was happening in the game, rather than it just being like, oh, okay, well, at halftime we'll just change out a shed ton of players just to get them a runabout. Like, that's not the right approach. So I think it was a really well managed game. I think everything, like, you know, tactics wise made sense for me. And at the end of the day, 7-0 was exactly the kind of confidence boost that you want going into a tournament, regardless of the opposition. But let's talk then about the opposition that England will be facing in the tournament's group of death. Wales, Netherlands and France. England face France, Netherlands and then Wales in their final game on the 13th of July. First game on the 5th of July against France. Middle game against Netherlands on the 9th. We're trying to work out sort of where it would be better for England to be placed. Not that there's any sense that we'd want, you know, the Lionesses to not go full throttle and go full throttle on certain games to kind of try and navigate and make sure they're in the best place for it. But second or first place, we were kind of having this little debate. So second means England would likely face Germany in the last 8. First means they could face Spain in the semis. Rach, what do we feel about those matchups, and which one would you rather us face if you could choose?
I think, if you could choose, I think second is probably better or preferred. I wouldn't say better. They're all going to be hard. You know, England are going to go into this to want to top the group. There's no two ways about it. You know, but equally, coming second is a very real probability. Not getting out of the group is a probability because, as we discussed, this is the group of death. So it's an added weight and added pressure going into this, having not one but 2 top teams, and then a derby, a game against Wales, always difficult at their first major tournament. And for Wales, it'll be their last game of the tournament. It could mean something. It could mean if they get points, something could happen. Or for them, they might already be out, and they've still got that potential to take on England and have an impact on who goes where in the group. So there's no easy game in this group. And I think it's a different approach and a different mentality compared to, say, Euro 2022. Again, not that they were necessarily easy games, but a very different profile of team, I would say. You know, France always scare me ahead of every major tournament because they are such a talented squad. And I think you always expect that this could be their tournament. You're never sure. Mm-hmm. To think that they've never won a major tournament seems crazy. I think perhaps it's more of a mentality thing with France, and they've gone through a lot off the pitch. You know, I think there's a bit more calmness now with Bonnet in the team, but still, you never know with France. You never know if they'll self-implode or if they're just going to have some unbelievable tournament, and having them in the group stage isn't ideal. The Netherlands, another team who've had a bit of an inconsistent, rocky kind of year, 18 months. I think that 4-0 loss to Germany was really bruising, especially ahead of a major tournament. They've missed key players. They've had Palova out. They've had Jill Roord out. They've had Vivianne Miedema out. I think the fact that they've managed to get her back fit is key because she is a integral part to that team. Lynette Berenstein has kind of stepped up in her absence. She's becoming much more effective in front of goal, which is a concern for England. Didn't she score twice when England played in that 3-2 win over the Netherlands a while ago? You know, they have players in that team who can score goals, and now Vivianne Miedema is back. It just adds another level. You know, she came back in her their friendly ahead of the tournament, scored 2 goals in 60 minutes, you know, and that should be a concern for England fans, that not only is Miedema back, but she's back firing. So, you know, that's a concern. And then, of course, Wales, as I touched on, it's a derby. They're going to want to cause as many problems as possible for every team in this group, but especially England.
Let's refocus our attentions just for now, and then I'll let you run absolutely riot on the Group D, where we think everything's going to go. And of course, we've got our predictions coming up. We've got a really good question in from 4 Millie Bright, who has asked us on Instagram, who do you think will score the most goals in England during the tournament, Rach? Like, who do you think is going to be the biggest threat?
I want to say,
Russo's
so it's almost
got to be
like,
up there.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's almost like 2 questions. Like, I think Russo should and could be the one racking up all the goals for England. I think England have got a lot of goals in them across the team, as we saw last night. But what player is going to be giving other teams headaches? Russo. Even when she's not scoring, she's causing problems. And you saw that last night. Her running, her press. My God, her press is so good. There were times where, on the rare foray forward and the ball for Jamaica, and then the ball was launched back up. You think, okay, the defenders, the goalkeepers, they have time to play it around the back. No, Russo's there, putting pressure on the goalkeeper, forcing her to make a decision quickly. She is going to be causing lots of defences problems, and she can score goals. And I think if she gets a goal in the first game, that will do her the world of good in terms of, that confidence. Because she is one of those players that once she gets one, I feel like the floodgates open, the shackles are off a little bit. So her, I think, for definite, we can see that goals can come from midfield, from defence, so I actually think the goals could be spread out across the England team. But I would also say I'm not expecting them to score quite as many as they did in the group stages in the last Euros, that's for sure.
No, 100%. That was going to be my point about Russo, is that I think it just takes that one to kind of then make sure, like you said, like I couldn't have put it any better, that the floodgates open, because I think we saw a little bit of that creep into the game against Jamaica, where it just felt like she was going to score, she was in the right places, she was a toe away, she was centimetres away, she hit the post, she hit the bar, and it was like everything but convert. And I think then it starts to get in your head that you're not going to score those chances. And I think that was a really nice thing to see about the Jamaica game, like 6 completely different scorers. And at the same time, I mean, got to give massive credit and flowers to Jess Carter, who nearly got herself on the score sheet like early doors within the first like 5 or 10 minutes or so. But I think the goals were coming also from every different section of the pitch. You had one from Lucy Bronze, you had Stanway, you had Toon, you had Russo. Sort of every single player is getting involved in those attacking threats that sort of teams have to then deal with, and they manage in a completely different way. So yeah, I think if you're going to put me to the wire in terms of who was going to probably score the most goals in the competition out of the England squad, yeah, 100% you'd be expecting that it was going to be Alessia Russo. Tooney, I think, given based on her performance with Jamaica, I think would be up there. But yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, there's a lot of threat, I think, in that attacking line. I'm super excited to see that all come together. Obviously, the weight of the world is kind of on their shoulders. They're expected to progress. They're expected, obviously, to get out of the group stages, but they're expected to go far into the tournament, if not win it again. Like that, you can't shy away from that kind of expectation there. Do we think that's going to be a bit of a hindrance? Do we think actually it's going to, galvanise them to do something that no one's, that they've never done before?
I don't think that's as big of a thought in camp as it might be for the rest of us. I think particularly for those of us reporting on the game, I would like to think recognise the context around this Euros, recognise how much the game has grown since the last Euros, recognise the journey that England have been on for the last kind of 2 years since the World Cup. I mean, the fact that they got to won the Euros and then got to a World Cup final is incredible. They've had key players out over kind of that period. There's been a bit of ups and downs in terms of form, and a lot of that's down to the growth of the game across the board, which we saw at the World Cup. So I don't think for them, like, they want to go and win it for sure, but I don't think they're sitting there thinking, oh my God, like, we're defending champions, everyone's expecting us to win it again. Because realistically, I don't think everyone is expecting them to win it again, because there's so many teams now who legitimately could win this tournament. Spain, the favourites, France could do it, Germany could do it, Sweden could finally break that mould and actually win a major tournament for the first time in a very long time, given the players they have. And, they've got players who are coming to the latter stage of their careers. It's probably their last major tournament. It's going to give them that extra impetus. There are teams that can cause upsets along the way. So I think they know in camp how difficult this is going to be. This is entirely different to the last Euros when they were the home host nation. They definitely had an easier group for sure. The momentum they gained because of that group kind of influenced the quarterfinals, the semi-finals. And it's just a different beast this time around but then equally, if they get out of the group, they'll look back and say, we just got out of the group of death. And that could be the momentum they need. So I don't think that's necessarily a focus for them. And I think they'll be very good at managing expectations in camp. And I think in terms of galvanising, I imagine the kind of discourse around the team over the last few weeks with players out and that kind of stuff will hopefully be the galvanising effect that they need.
No, definitely. And I think you also have to take into the fact that, a lot of the teams kind of going into these tournaments will have a big support network around them. They know what kind of goes into, going into a major international tournament and now going into it as the sort of reigning champions. Like they do a lot of work and preparation, like mental preparation around sort of dealing with highly pressurized environments and dealing with, pressure from the fans. We've seen, obviously like a number of the players want to take a step away from social media, and there is that imposed kind of embargo on, players putting out content and things, kind of take themselves away from the external noise and just to focus on every day and every single game in the competition. So yeah, I have to agree with you that obviously there's always going to be internalized pressure because you want to perform to the best of your abilities, especially for some of these younger players going into the competition. It's their first chance on the world stage. We've seen competitions make names out of young players, so there's going to be a bit of an expectation on them too. People like Aggie Beaver Jones, Grace Clinton, like people are really looking forward to seeing what these people can do on on a big stage, like when they've got sort of like the whole world watching them. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting one, but I've got to agree. I mean, you've already achieved history. To do it again second time round would be absolutely unbelievable. But we do have a really, really big question to kind of finish this session on, Rach, and I really want to set it up because, really think about this carefully and, put in the consideration that it deserves. Awesome question from Libby. She said, who do you think has brought the most luggage to Switzerland? I think Ella Toon. Rach, give your thoughts.
I think Lauren Hemp. I reckon her bag is full of Lego.
Lego? That's your answer.
Yeah.
Lauren Hemp and her bags of Lego.
Yeah. I've had to carry Lego
think?
home for my brother for Christmas, and I was like, you know what? I'll just take it out of the box. It'll be fine. Like, it was a big friggin' Chewbacca Lego, and there was about 37 individual bags. So I ended up having my entire backpack and every little nook, crevice, cranny, and pocket were just filled with all these little Lego bags. I can't imagine what it looked like going through security. So it does take up quite a lot of space.
No, I think that's a really fair. There's a lot of rationale behind that. I appreciate that. I would have gone with either Lauren James or Leah Williamson. I think just from a fashion perspective, I'm expecting them two to absolutely nail the outfits, and I think
where are they going to be wearing them?
Yeah, but you do have some downtime, depending on sort of the gaps, obviously getting out of the group stages in between the sort of the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, they will be allowed some time out of the camp. And especially if they win the tournament, want to stay out there for a little bit, want to jet off to another holiday to kind of take some time away. They don't have long before the WSL starts, so
it's hard, isn't it? Like, do you go and pack for 4 weeks, or do you pack for 2 weeks and then go, crap, I need to do a wash? Yeah,
jinxed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, Libby, let us know why you think it would be Ella too, because she kind of, I don't know, she feels like a fairly light packer to me, but I want to understand your rationale behind that. And also, audience members, definitely let us know if you have any other thoughts on who you think could be the biggest packers.
We did have a chat with the players at the media day, and one of my questions was what the key thing in the suitcase is going to be for players. And Ella Toon said that she has a pillow with a picture of her dad's face on it, and that's going to be coming with her, and that's going to be the thing that gets her through. So I thought that was really sweet.
Oh, don't, mate. That's actually quite emotional.
I love that.
Coming up after this, we discuss Wales's chance and check in with the French and the Dutch. England's first opponents, France, are hot on they're on a bit of a run of form at the moment. Won all of their 6 matches this year and conceded just 2 goals. They're obviously the opposition that we faced first off on the 5th of July. As we discussed a few weeks ago, the France manager has made some huge calls, like absolutely monumental calls, dropping some very big names. But they do have huge attacking talent. I mean, we've seen Sandy Baltimore with Chelsea this season run absolute riot up the pitch. PSG's Grace Gayaro on England. We know it's a very great nation and we are prepared for that, but we must look them straight in the eye so that we do not lower our heads. I mean, yeah, obviously, yeah, that's very poetic and very, very profound.
No, but guys, just don't overthink it. It's fine.
I don't think it needs to be that deep.
Deep, do you know what I mean?
It's not battle, it's football. You
got to be able to see the ball as well, which is down at your feet, so. I shall not look down at any time. Play the ball on the ground, guys. You'll be grand.
What are you expecting from France, Rach? What do you think are the kind of things that England should be most looking out for? Because, I mean, like we said there, the run of form from France has been fierce. It kind of feels like they're in a period of transition, but in a good way, kind of, changing of the guard, essentially, sort of, not getting rid of the older names, but bringing in sort of like fresher, younger talent and kind of, I don't know, rejuvenating the France squad. I think, like, time and time again, we see France sort of underperforming in major international tournaments. We've seen them develop tactics that are very samey, kind of going out all guns blazing in the first half, dropping off a little bit. I mean, everyone kind of knows what to expect, I suppose, from your Wendy Reynards, and now, you're kind of there's a new wave, a new energy in the France squad. Do we think that poses a bit more of a threat?
Yeah, it can do. It can be a little bit of an unknown with a new manager, a new captain, some key players missing that you feel were important to the way that they played, even just from a set piece perspective, not having Wendy Renard. And this quote that he's come out with about, the definition of insanity or whatever is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And he could have nailed it. He could be absolutely right. He could make these changes and this could be the thing that wins France their first ever major tournament. I think you're right, they come out fast. They are a very fast team. They just beat Brazil 3-2 in a pre-tournament friendly. You've got your Melvin Mallards, your Kelly Gago, your Diani, your Toto, Sandy Baltimore, all in flying form and very scary up front. But equally, we've seen France not turn up in big moments. I think back to that Nations League final against Spain. So it is about the mentality. It is about how they turn up. It is, just as it's a difficult group for England, it is a very difficult group for France as well. I think England and France both have the benefit of having beaten each other once in the last kind of year or so, because obviously England had France in their Nations League group previously, where they won one and lost one. So yeah, I think with the new manager, it'll feel like a clean, fresh slate, and maybe that's how they're going to approach this tournament. Is that like, we've got the new manager, we've got the new captain, we're fully locked in, this is a new France, we're going to approach this differently and we're going to go and win it. But yeah, a tough game for any team to start against the defending champions is always going to be really tough.
100%. And I think, it's definitely going to set the tone for how the rest of the tournament goes. But then talking about sort of like how we then get from France to then the last group stage game, Wales, England and Wales going up against each other, two home nations. Big test. Obviously, Wales, entering their first major tournament. There's been so much kind of celebration around how historic this has been for the Wales squad and how much it means to them. And sort of they are going into the competition as underdogs. They're the lowest ranked team in the draw. They obviously face Netherlands on Saturday, but there's just a kind of I say there's such a good feeling around, there's a good vibe around the Wales squad going into this, like the way that the players' names were announced and kind of like, how historic that moment was, and they finally realised that they were going to be going into the competition, and like all the buzz around the Wales squad, like it feels huge. It feels like also, fans in the UK have kind of two teams to celebrate going into the competition. But at the same time, so much conflict there that England and Wales obviously face each other, and Wales could be the blocker to England progressing, dare I say, like that is a possibility. But yeah, I mean, you look at the sort of Wales squad and you look at the talent they have. I mean, do we think the midfield is going to be key? You've got Jess Fishlock, you've got Angharad James, Sophie Ingle obviously making the squad as well. I mean, do you think that's kind of where the games are going to be sort of, I suppose, won and lost and drawn in this competition?
I think Jess Fishlock will absolutely be key for Wales. I think they'll need to work on managing the emotion of the occasion, which is something you don't know how to do until you do it for the first time. So I think that's something Wales will need to think about. The fact that the England game is last is probably beneficial because they'll have found their feet by the time that game comes around, and they won't need any extra motivation coming up against England. But yeah, this is going to be a huge tournament for them, facing the Netherlands first. I don't think I've seen that Wales had any pre-tournament friendly, which I think is interesting. The Netherlands have come off the back of a win. So it is interesting in that respect where they are from a footballing perspective and how fresh maybe they're feeling. But equally, Wales might want to be saving it all up for the tournament. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. This always seems to happen when a home nation gets into a major tournament. You know, England had Scotland in their group in the 2017 Euros. They had Northern Ireland in their group in the 2022 Euros, and now they have Wales in their group. You could see it coming before the draw was even made. I knew Wales and England were going to face each other, and maybe that's something Wales can use. Actually, is that extra motivation in that final game. Wherever they are, listen, like I said earlier, they could be on the cusp of something by the time they come to that game and need something out of it, or they could know that they could have a say in who progresses out of the group. So either way, it's just all added fuel and added motivation to what will make for a very entertaining final game.
100%. And I think obviously there's so much emotion around Wales at the moment. I mean, Fishlock has said in the build-up, we've shown we can compete. Rianne's made us very adaptable. We can change our style depending on who we're playing, and we understand all the different systems so well. We're such a tight-knit group. We chat all the time. That closeness definitely pushes us on. I know I was sort of messaging Josie Green over the weekend. Yeah, she's one of my good mates from the old Spurs days back in the day, and she was sort of saying how much excitement there is around the team, like how, you know, yeah, obviously there's always a bit of nerves for anyone going into the competition, but, you know, obviously having like friends and family out there and it just being such a historic occasion, like regardless of what happens. So yeah, I really am wishing them the best of luck, because it's just yeah, it's just good vibes around that squad, and I just want to see how they can get on, to be honest. And I don't think we should underestimate them by any means at all. Okay, talking of then the last team in Group D, the Netherlands, a strange qualifying campaign. So they won only 2 games and scored just 4. However, they only let in 4-2. I mean, they're solid. We did have a situation, obviously, in the 2023 World Cup where Vivianne Miedema missed it, but now she's back in business. Since that tournament, the Netherlands have developed a range of young talent too. You've got Esme Brutes at Barcelona, as well as Chelsea's Vika Kaptein and Verle Berman. I mean, Rach, what do you make of the Netherlands and the kind of threat that they're going to pose, not just to England, but I suppose the rest of Group D?
Yeah, I mean, not like the best preparations in the Nations League. And again, as I touched on, you know, they were managing injuries. I think the fact that Lineth Berenstein has really found her shooting boots in Miedema's absence just gives the Netherlands another weapon. It's a bit awkward because I think they know that this is Jonker's last tournament, and I'm not sure him leaving was something he wanted. So that's a little bit awkward, I think. They've got plenty of experience in the squad, so I expect them to be able to manage these kind of big occasions, but I just find they've been inconsistent of late, and it makes it hard to, again, read if they'll turn up, how they'll turn up. I think the Wales game opening for them will be really important for them to go and try and get the 3 points will be a massive target. And I think, again, yeah, getting Miedema back will give them a huge boost ahead of this tournament. That's not to say that, like, she's their only good player. She's not, obviously. But I think when she was not there, there was a very big Vivianne Miedema shaped hole. So the fact that they've been able to get her back, that she came back, she captained the team in their friendly and scored 2 goals, like, that's all the kind of confidence you need going into a tournament. But again, when England play Netherlands, it does feel a bit like a derby because of Serena Wiegman. And, you know, especially now that Arjen Vuurink is replacing Andries Jonker. It's, again, going to be a bit awkward on the sidelines there. But there always seems to be, like, just an extra edge in the Dutch games. And like France, England have played the Dutch twice in the previous Nations League and won one and lost one. So both teams know they can beat each other. So, yeah, this is why this is the group of death, I think.
Oh, 100%. And I think we'd be remiss to mention the fact that the Dutch fans were such a massive part of the Euro 2022, absolutely bringing the vibes at the stadium. So expecting more big things from them as well. Massive Dutch contingent. And as well, I think everyone I seem to be speaking to recently is saying how they're going out to Switzerland from an English perspective. So I do think, like, the Dutch clash with, like, the Dutch and England fans together, I think is going to create one of those, like, Sweden-Denmark moments as well. So looking forward to seeing that and the atmosphere there.
Viv was asked by a Dutch reporter after their match about facing Beth. Very direct questions from the Dutch, which I thought was interesting. Initially calling Beth Mead her wife and then correcting herself and saying girlfriend. The reporter did, not Beth, and not Viv. But basically asking if they'd talked about it and if they'd shared any tactics and all this kind of stuff. And Viv was very much like, we have an unspoken rule where we don't talk about that kind of thing. Like, obviously we talk about how we're feeling and whatever else, but we don't tend to talk about tactics. So yeah, that is going to be another interesting matchup, that's for sure.
No, definitely. Okay, Rach, coming up after this, our final tournament predictions. Time to put your flag pole thing in the sand. Okay, Andy has asked us on Blue Sky if we had any bold predictions for this tournament, and it is absolutely that moment in time that we have to find outrage. It is that time.
Bold.
Yeah, really bold predictions.
I can give you a bold one, but I don't think it's going to be any of these questions.
Oh, God. Well, we'll do, be creative.
Do you want? Can I tell you what my bold one is? Can I give you my bold one first?
God, I've not even asked the question.
No, because I know that the question isn't in there. The golden boot.
Oh, okay, go on then.
And I got so much shit for this. Stina Blackstenius.
Do you?
I know, and someone accused us of being Arsenal fans because we said that. I was like, I'm looking at Sweden, and she's just like, she scored a hat-trick against, wasn't it against Denmark? She scored there in their recent win over Norway, and she scored in the Champions League final. Maybe she's finally cracked the offside stuff. And this is her moment, as Martine McCutcheon said. This could be her moment. So there's a bold one. The rest of my predictions I don't think are that bold.
Well, let's see. First off, dark horse. What we saying?
Italy.
Why?
I think they've quietly gone about their business. I think they've shown they can cause top nations problems. I think if they come second in their group, they could face the winners of Group A, who I think would be Norway, and I think Italy could take Norway, which would then potentially see them going to a semi-final.
Okay, nice. I like that. I think this isn't going to be a very popular opinion, but I think Wales, I do think they have enough talent in that squad to cause disruption. And I think there is something really spicy about going into your first international tournament. We saw the same thing with Ireland in the World Cup. Like, you've made history, yes, but you want to get your first goal at a tournament. You want to get your first points at a tournament. You want to get your first win at a tournament. Like, you want all of those things to still, like, you don't know when that opportunity is going to come back around again. So it's not, I would wish that Wales was in another group and I wasn't having to say, like, I do think they could cause some disruptions, but I do think Wales have it in them, and especially where that last game could be the game that kind of defines England's futures, which just, it creates a whole host of different conflict in this country about what should happen. But yeah, my dark horses I think are definitely Wales. Okay, not the best one then to lead on to, but how far do we think England will go in the competition?
I think if they get to the semi-finals, it's a success.
Okay.
I think they're in the group of death. I think every team has come on leaps and bounds, and I think, they could potentially face Spain if permutations go the way we think in the semi-finals. So I think if they got to a semi-final, that should be considered success. It won't be. If they don't win it, it will, I'm sure, be deemed a failure, but that's what I think.
I do think, we talked about the expectation and sort of what it would be like to win another European tournament back to back, which is obviously just outside the realm of, like, that's such a massive expectation to place on a country. But but at the same time, I suppose, when you've gone from winning the Euros 2022, getting into the final of the Women's World Cup, then going into this tournament now, there's the expectation that's been created, I suppose, by the success of previous tournaments. So I think anything less than getting into final probably won't be seen as a successful one in the competition. I think that will be the view or the perception of it. I don't think it's the right one, but I do think there will be that perception that we seem to have dropped off, or standards seem to have gone down, or we've dipped in some way. And I don't
it's never anyone else has gotten better.
Think...
It's just England have gotten shit. Yeah,
it's we have dropped. Yeah, completely. We've all fallen to crap. All the turbulence around the squad. Before the game, before the tournament started, that must have contributed to things. Has Serena lost it? Like, all those narratives that we see are gonna crop up in the competition at some point. Yeah, so I think for me personally, I think success would be the semi-finals. I think we're good enough to get there, and we have the talent. I think anything below the semi-finals, I think I would be thinking that's not a successful tournament for the Lionesses, and I think where they're at with the players that they have. But I do think the mainstream view is going to be that if it's not final, it's not quite good enough.
And what's funny is we all talk about the Euros and the World Cup, and I know we don't put the same weight on the Nations League, but there's essentially been 2 Nations Leagues since the World Cup, which England did not get out of their group for twice. Well, they didn't get to progress to, the latter stages of that tournament, if you like, and that just seems to be forgotten because, there's 2 tournaments right there that they haven't gone as far as they would have liked. They missed out on a potential Olympic spot, so, you have to factor that in as well, and everyone else has gotten better.
True story. That's the sensible, pragmatic view, 100%. Okay, the last and the tastiest question: who is going to win the whole tournament?
Spain. I think Germany will go far as well.
Oh God, this causes so much like actual moral conflict.
We need to do this after like the first round of games where we can see where everyone is at.
Do you know what, touch wood? I think it's going to be England. I think I don't know whether this is just naivety or stupidity or just blind hope. I'm gonna go England. England for me, Spain for you. And I think one of those is probably going to be, it's a 50-50, I think, going into this competition. I think probably on balance, my head is saying more Spain, but my heart is saying England. So I'm going to settle for heart on this one. Okay. Rach, we have done it. We have finished our build-up podcast before the Euros. We have completed another pre-tournament run. The next pod that we have is going to be in and amongst the action of the Euros. You're obviously out there on the ground. I cannot be more jealous of the position that you're in. You're going to be our ears and eyes on all the drama. Wishing you the best of luck in covering this tournament, going across the country and being amidst all the best and most magic parts of the tournament.
Thank you very much.